study about our life, about that what matters in life. And we want to go short to a short repetition. We have seen that we must have a foundation on what we base our knowledge. And that first foundation is the law. And we saw yesterday that there is a fundamental law that everything needs power and everything works in taking in order to give. We started yesterday with the human structure and understanding that the human has a spirit. How did we try to find it out? By speculation or by evidence of the law? And I hope you all have thought about it last night, that without a human spirit, there is no explanation of humanity, neither of the animals. Because we need energy and we need basic needs. And those basic needs that we need, that are spiritual, must be taken and must be expected from a spirit, not from the body. The body doesn't know anything about spiritual things, like this device doesn't know anything about spiritual things. And with the function, we proved that without the spirit, the body cannot function, because when we are dead, it is just because the spirit and the body separated. So that's why let us put this study on this objective foundation that cannot be changed by interpretation. I go short to the summary of the evidences we spoke last night, that we must have a spirit, and then we go a little bit deeper into the matter. So, without a spirit, there is no spiritual activity, consciousness, feelings, and all this. Without a spirit, we have no spiritual needs. Without a spirit, we would have no sensory perception, feeling, sight, smell, taste, hearing. Without the spirit, we would have no thoughts, because only the spirit can think. There would be no judgment, there would be no responsibility, there is no morality or ethics, there is no spirituality, and we could not move ourselves. So the question is, from where does the spirit come from? Can the spirit come from the matter? Can chemistry make it? And I hope you all remember that chemistry can do no spiritual things. Out of something that is physical, nothing spiritual can arise. So let us look to the three forms of life that we have on earth. We all have here plants and we have animals. That is our little cat. Well, she was still a good cat. and then there is a family somewhere from the internet. So this is these are the three life forms. We have humans, plants, and animals. And they all have in common that they are out of chemistry. Yes, they have a matter. So what does it need to add to matter to make a plant? What does it need to add to matter to make a cat or an animal? What does it need to add to the matter to become a human? What does it need? It needs, in the plant, life, and life is a mystery. It needs for the animal a spirit, and it needs for the human also a spirit. And of course, like the bodies are different, the spirits are different, so the animal spirit has lesser needs, lesser capacities, and the human spirit has more needs, more capacities. So we call this life forms. There are 4 life forms described in the Bible, and we will see them. So we have here, a plant is a living matter, an animal is a living soul. We will come back and speak about that. A human is a living soul, and an angel is a living spirit. And above all is God, the Spirit. I will explain later why I picture God as a circle, and we will come to that later on as well. But let us look to see what are the theories of the human being, the anthropology. If you don't have a right understanding of the human structure, we will never be able to understand humanity. So is the human being composed out of three different entities, that is, a body out of with chemistry, plus the spirit, plus the soul? And since spirit and soul is usually viewed as something that is spiritual, there came the heathen dualism, in which the soul and the spirit are spiritual entities, and so we have body plus soul. And the soul includes the spirit, but does not define it. This is the Platonic and Aristotelian image of the human being. Platon was the first one who said the human is a god that caught himself in an animal body. That's why he's a human. Do you know that? That's the theory that most people still today believe, that when you die, your soul gets free, and then you go back where you were before, because before you were a god. And we will see where that comes from, where this idea comes from. So, by the law, we cannot have two or three different entities in us. I didn't find three different entities, I found two different entities. And the third one is not there, it's just a result of the two other ones. But we will see that when we see the next theory is the Stoic and Epicurean image of the human being, and that predominates today in science and some religions, where it says the human being has only one unit. He's only out of matter. Your doctor, when you go to him, he will probably say to you, you just are out of chemistry. There is nothing more there than chemistry. The Stoic and Epicurean wanted to do that which is against the Platonic idea. So they came up and said, everything arises out of matter. Matter is the source where love comes from. And they explained our ability to love with the idea that, like we put wood in a fire and it burns, so that burning is what we feel as love. So the cells burn, yes, and so the burning makes us feel well. And still, since today, the theory in the theory of evolution and what today science believes is that the spiritual things come out of the matter, which is totally, as we have seen, not explaining well with the law, because then matter would be the one that reigns everything. But we have seen that the problem or our human being is not reigned by matter, but by what we think, and our thoughts must come from a spirit. And there is a third theory that is, there might be others one, but these are the three basic ones. And the third is the legal one that says a body plus spirit equals the soul. This is the biblical image of the human being, and it is the only legal image. So two things make the soul. So let me explain a little bit. I do this with a simple analogy, with a simple explanation. We have a piano or we have a violin. The piano has keys. The body is the piano, and the keys are the brain or the cortex. What is the soul if the player is the spirit? Did you get it? I repeat it once again. So we have a piano, and the piano is the body. And the keys of the piano is the cortex, yes? The outer layer of the brain. And we have the spirit who touches the keys. Who, when the piano player is the spirit and the piano is the body, what is the soul?
Music, the combination.
It's the music.
Okay.
That's what comes out of it. Can the piano ever play music? Can the player ever play without the piano?
No.
No. So it's very simple. There need two elements to have music. And so out of those two elements, there comes the soul. So the soul is the result of the body and the spirit. And since in the cortex, the whole human being is included. Here in this cortex, in both sides, everything that you have in your body is there. That's why the spirit must just be on the cortex, and there, together with the cortex, he makes the soul. So the soul is that which we have in our head, the combination of the player and the keys. The spirit does not need to go into your stomach and say, let's fix it. Because the stomach is up here in the cortex. Everything is governed from that place. That's why our soul is just in our head. Now, when I lose my arm, what did I lose? I lost a part, a physical part of my soul. But since my arm is still present in the cortex, the arm is still there. That's why you have phantom pain, or what do you call that? Yes, you have no arm, but you have an arthritis in your arm. Because the problem is just here in the cortex. So we have to know that. But if we take the arm out of the cortex, how much arms do we have? Even if he's here, he won't move. There is no possibility anymore that he should move. So let us be clear. The human being is a soul composed of two elements. The one is physical and the other is spiritual. And there is only life if both are together. When they separate, what dies? Only the soul. The body becomes earth as it was taken from earth, and the spirit becomes a breath of life. They're still there, they're elements, but there is no soul, no life anymore, no music. So that's very simple to understand. That's why when the brain is damaged and the spirit has no piano anymore, then there is no soul, there is no music, no life. Everything has come to the end. And if we know how God created us, when did the soul be? When He combined the earth and His breath of life. So when they come together, there was a soul, and when they separate, there is no soul anymore. So let us see functionally how that works in us. We have here the living soul, the combination between the cortex and the spirit, and we look to the functions. We all have eyes. Where are the eyes located in the soul? Well, they are located in the body. Your eyes are in the body, yes? And they are connected to the cortex. And who sees what you see now? Can your brain see? Can your brain see? Can your eyes see? Now you see, the eye can see nothing. The eye can see absolutely nothing. It's just an instrument that takes on a wave and leads it through the nerve to the cortex. Yes, both of them, but you know, because we have two eyes, they're bound together. So who picks up that wave and says, oh, this is a picture? It's only the Spirit can do it. There is no capacity in any physical thing to see something. Any physical thing can never see anything. This is a physical thing. Can it see? No. Seeing is only the capacity of a spirit. But you see, it's only possible in the combination through the eyes. When you close your eyes, how much does your spirit see? Does he see anything? No. He still has an imagination, of course. He can imagine. Have you ever dreamed a colored dream? Do you dream colors in a dream? Yes? They're just stored images in the cortex, but the spirit is the only one who can seize them. So, who hears? To whom do I talk now? I can only talk to your spirit. But if you have no ears, and I saw some people have hearing aids, so I have to speak louder. So then, that's just a help to take the signal to the cortex, where at the cortex the spirit picks up the information and he knows English, obviously. Because he learned English. And if you teach him German, he will learn also German. And I have a person we know, kind of really call him friend, but he's very gifted with languages. He speaks 26 or 36 languages. And he can go everywhere on earth and he speaks the local language. If he goes to China, he speaks Chinese. If he goes to Japan, he speaks Japanese. If he goes to Spain, he speaks Spanish. If he goes to, whatever, he knows almost all those big languages that you can have. And he is doing seminars in all those languages. That would be a nice thing for me to have. But unfortunately, maybe it's also a little bit dependent on my brain, how capable he is to store that information that the Spirit gets, because it's all a matter of both combined together. Yes? So we need never to forget, they only function. Music comes only out when the piano and the player are connected. So we feel. Do your finger feel anything? Do you have feelings in your fingers? No, of course not. So where do you feel? You only feel up here because the fingers are connected to the cortex, and on the cortex your spirit picks up and says, this is soft, or this is hard, or whatever it is. So there is no feeling in something physical, but the spirit feels, but he only can feel what comes to him through the body. The same is with the nose, and the same is with the tongue, with the taste. So there are 5 senses that we have. How many do we need to survive? Do we need eyesight to live? No. Do we need to hear to live?
No.
Do we need to taste to live? Do we need to smell to live? Do we need to feel to live? Yes. You see, the theory of evolution that says that everything is created by a need, yes? There is no need for hearing, seeing, tasting, and smelling for life itself. Those are just privileges of the Spirit. They're only there because there is a Spirit there. For life itself, you would just need to feel your hunger, to feel the pain, to feel the thirst, to feel the tiredness, so that you shouldn't go on, Some people, I would love to not be tired, but then I might probably die suddenly because I didn't feel tired. So feeling is the only one that we really need in order to live. All others are just supplementary for the spirit. So you see, we were not made for physical. We were not made to survive. life is just there to have a purpose. So evidently, everything comes through the body to the spirit, and the spirit must pick that up, and then he takes a decision. If he does eat more, or drink more, or smell more, or hear more, or see more. Yes, he can direct the eyes because they follow his commands through his decisions. Everything that brings a lesser power to the body, everything that weakens the body weakens also the spirit. Yes, imagine you have a not well, how you call it, piano that you tuned, thank you. If you have not a well-tuned piano, how good music would the spirit have to play? Could he? No, so he would be weakened because he pushes the button, but the piano doesn't respond. That's why it's so important to know what weakens the body and what not. And the body is dependent on chemistry, is it? You know why I eat no chocolate? Even though I really like chocolate. I'm not the sweetest one, but I like sometimes sweet things, and chocolate was something that I really liked. I didn't eat too much. But one day when I understood the information that chocolate goes up to my cortex, and you know what it does to the cortex? It does that, what every drug does. It lessens its power. And then the spirit has a not well brain, so he cannot work with it correctly. And I said, I would not try to take out of my hard drive his speed. Would you? Would you take the speed out of your hard drive? No, you would even give him more speed so that he can work better. So I said, I won't eat chocolate again. And then, of course, I'm getting some temptations at my practice because my patients bring to me sometimes wine. Now they know that I don't drink after 14 years. And then they also know that I don't eat sweets. I eat chocolate and all this. Then I have Turkish people. I say, you bring me some fruits from Turkey when you come back. So they bring me fruits from Turkey. And then to others, I say, I love olive oil, so I have a lot of olive oil. Because that's something that I like, and that is healthy. But one day, after I did this decision to never eat chocolate again, there came a couple, they came from abroad, from France, and they came for consultation, and they were Seventh-day Adventists, and they had a chocolate factory. And of course, they brought a gift with them. And so, while we were driving from my home with them to the practice, I have 60 kilometers, that's about 40 miles. I was thinking in the back of the car, I was talking to God and said, God, this is Adventist chocolate. This should be a good thing. And you know, our Lord is a good one. He never forces anything to us, but He speaks to reason. So He just remembers you. What if it tastes good in your mouth, and after that it makes your hard drive to go slower, and you cannot really take good decisions and discernment? What would you do? And so, in the moment I became conscious about the effects of that sweet thing. Of course, was it hard to take the decision to say no? Was it hard or not? Not at all. In a moment, you're convicted. You know, my mother makes a good cake. It was my favorite cake as a child. And I visited her once, and that cake has 3 ingredients: sugar, milk, and eggs. And so it was in my car. I just visited my mom, I was driving home, and that cake she gave to me, and so I was very tempted. Said, And so I said to the Lord, give me an argument not to eat it. You must speak to my reason. Yeah, so that I might not fight again and again with your appetite, because my appetite is strong. I really like to eat. It's something good to eat, is it? I mean, it's nice to eat. And I like the good fruits. I'm liking when I travel somewhere to eat fruits that are there available and fresh. And you have here the oranges, they taste different than and the grapefruits, they taste different than in Germany, because you have them here somewhere, maybe not locally, but not far away, where you can get them. And they are very nice and sweet. So I was there, and I wanted to stop the temptation, yes, so that once for all you take a decision. You know that it works. And then, if you once have the argument, and when God reminded me what the effect is in the body of those combination, I had no problems anymore to say no. You see, we must be reasonable people. That reason from cause to effect. And yes, there are sweet things, they are not so good. And there are sweet things, they are good. So why not choose the sweet things, they are good? Because we were made for sweet or not for sweet? Yeah. We were made for sweet. The whole body likes sweet. And the spirit as well. It's sugar that we need, yes? So God must be sweet. Because He made us for sweet things. So I like sweet things, but they must be not damaging, not making my brain to bring him into a situation where it weakens my spirit to play the piano well. So I want to have a good tuned body so that my spirit can make a good music through that piano. So let's put a conclusion and come to the practical things, because we want to speak about practical things. So what are the two major differences? Because I think it's so important to see that we have a great difference between the body and the spirit. All functions of spirit and body are only possible when connected to each other in the soul. So that's why this is the connection. But let us see, what can the spirit do? Only the spirit can act for himself. There is no one that can act for the spirit. But the body obeys the commands of the spirit. The body cannot choose to act for himself. The spirit cannot be forced to act. You can never force a spirit to obey, no matter in what situation. The spirit cannot be forced to obey, but the body can be forced to action. He has no choices. He must obey. Only the spirit can think, see, hear, feel, taste, smell, and decide. The body has no spiritual capacity to think, feel, or decide. Only he can move the body. Yes, by the law we know moving in the physical realm is not possible by itself. Everything that moves must be moved. And the spirit and the wind are the same thing. They are word. Yes, the same word. So the wind that is in my head, on the brain, moves my body. He makes me speak, because my body could never speak by himself. That's not possible. So only the spirit, there's an incapacity to move himself. Only the spirit can have a relationship with God, humans, and animals. All our relationships, are they body relationships or spiritual relationships? Yes, the body can store and deliver information, but he has no capacity for relationships. Imagine you have a relationship with the piano. You only can have a relationship with the player of the piano. Okay? That makes very clear. So those are the two things that are very important to understand, that there are two entities that have different functions and different powers. So they must be there. There cannot be one entity doing all those things. So let's combine now and then come to the practical things. So the human is combined of a body and a spirit up there. I try to make it somehow visible to understand it. So there is the spirit and there is the body. What are the capacities? Who does what in the human soul? The spirit governs all processes in the body. You know that? The way you think, the way your body functions. That is, he governs the function of the nervous system. That's the first thing that he governs. He governs the hormonal system, the immune system, the digestive system, the blood sugar, and every system. But I want to tell you a little bit the story of the blood sugar. You know, blood sugar is something that we can very nicely see, that the thoughts are making the sugar rise and fall without eating. You know that? It's fantastic. I like to show that it is not by physical items we can put the blood sugar in its balance. It's only by thought process that the sugar is balanced. So I had a patient one day in my practice. She's 65 years old or 69, and she got diabetes type 1 5 years ago, or 4 years, and she had this funny device on her body, and that is a measurement of the blood sugar and an insulin pump, yes? And she has two sensors in her skin, and they measure every 20 minutes and send to that device to show how the blood sugar is. And when she showed that to me, I saw it the first time, and you see there the sugar level in your blood, and then I said, wow, you can see how your sugar works. We don't, yes? But soon we might have an app for sugar, but whatever. But I said, have you ever seen what happens with your sugar in the moment you have a spiritual event? Now I was thinking on something negative, like doctors always think are negative. But she told me something very nice. She says, oh yes. She even fell me in my words and says, whenever I hear that my grandchildren come to visit, I am very happy. What does the blood sugar do in the next moment? He goes from high to the balance. And she says, I have 2 arrows on my device that show me my blood sugar now falls down. What happened? Who put the sugar back where it should be? No, it's not the brain. It's her spirit. And then I have people that have a blood sugar issue that is too low. And there was a lady that listened to my presentation and said, oh, I have to eat all the time, so my blood sugar should rise because it's always down. I said, yes, if you become a happy woman, your blood sugar will be in balance. There was a young lady, she had also type 1 diabetes. She also had such a device, and she came into my practice and says, I always keep my blood sugar at 120. Whenever I see that it rises above 120, I put insulin so that I should not have the side effects of high blood sugar in your body. Because they think that when you get your eyes and all the changes of your blood vessels, that's sugar related, which is also an analogy that they cannot prove. But however, she does this, and the sugar still rises. She is in a court session. She's in a stress situation. Her sugar rises. She puts insulin, and in spite of insulin, the sugar continues to rise. Doesn't eat. She does not eat. And so now she puts more insulin, and it still rises. You know when it falls? In the moment she comes out of the cord. And then it goes down because now insulin suddenly works. You see, it's the same thing with blood pressure. You can take whatever pill you want. If your blood pressure should rise, it will rise. There is no power that can stop it because it is a spiritual matter. Every balance that we have in our body can never be done by chemistry because chemistry cannot balance itself. In a living being, it must be balanced by the actions of the Spirit. And we'll see how beautiful that is. Where does the problem come? Why do we have a low blood sugar? If joy makes your blood sugar to come into balance, what is then that what breaks him out of balance? It's the opposite of joy. And we'll see that it is always the opposite of joy that brings sickness in our life. If we could be always joyful, no blood sugar, no diabetes, no cancer, nothing. Isn't that fantastic? Joy would fix us. You know, I have in my practice, when I started 14 years ago, I was newly reconverted a year ago before I started. And so I said, I will put in my practice a motto on the wall, so every patient should see. And I was praying, thinking, what can I put there for my patients to see? And so I found Proverbs 17:22 or 22:17, I think. It says, a merry heart is good like a medicine. And in German, it's even a good translation that says, a merry heart is healing. And so my friend who did the decoration and who painted that in stone, he said he made the healing in gold so that it shines. You know, a merry heart is healing, and a broken spirit drieth up the bones. What is a broken spirit? A happy spirit or a sad spirit? And if you know that every disease must come somehow through the bones, through the bone marrow, you understand that in one sentence, the wise Solomon put the whole medicine together. Everything is one sentence. And that is wisdom. You know, I have to teach 9 lessons to understand something. Solomon had only one sentence, and it all was fixed. Isn't that nice? That's wisdom. If joy would be in our heart, if the spirit would never be broken, never ever a disease could fit us. Never ever. It's impossible because the spirit keeps all the balances. There would be no virus attacking you. There would be no bacteria that could ever sit and multiply and do something in or on your body. So the Spirit is the power. He is that element that must conduct every single process in our cells, because our cells can never process anything by themselves. When they are separated, what happens with the body cells? Do they still work? No. So the Spirit, through the cortex, because the body is there completely, governs everything. That's why thinking is that what we do most. That's why thinking is that which is the most important for us to be healthy. Solomon didn't say good food make you happy. But Solomon said good words make you happy. He says, if you take my words and keep them in your heart, they will be health to your whole body. But words are not physical things. Words are spiritual information. That's so important to understand. The wise Solomon, who was a good doctor, yes, he's my primary teacher. I learned from him a lot, even though he lived 3,000 years before me. But he when I discovered the human being, I went to Solomon, and I came to understand that Solomon knew more about the human body than any scientist today, or the human being that any scientist today knows. And there is no Solomon teaching in the universities, you know that? There is no item where you say, let's teach what did Solomon say about the human being. You know that he did all a study about the human being? And he has it there in three messages, or in 3 things that he wrote. The Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, we will see, it's his doctorate about the heart, the subconscious, and he just explains it perfectly. And then he has the love thing, which is the center of how much? Did Solomon understand that love is the center of life? Did he or not? Absolutely. That's why I didn't speak about food, even though I think food is important. You have seen, we must be wise what we eat or not. But our health is dependent on what and how we think. So everything is kept in balance by the Spirit. If we would just be physical elements, then you would give so much sugar and so much insulin, and what would happen? You will always have a balanced, what? A balanced body. But that is not so. You can have people, they never can be put right with blood sugar, but when they go into psychoanalysis and when they go into psychotherapy, their blood sugar stabilizes. If, at least for a while, for that. So what does the body do? The body responds to the input, like when you push the button, the piano must make the tone, must respond to the input of the Spirit, thoughts and electricity. He moves, like the Spirit says it, and the body needs the input of the Spirit by what He chooses to give him in chemistry, eating, drinking, inhaling, covering, hurting. Yes, we all that. The Spirit takes decision what you eat or not. Do you? That's why I don't want to weaken my body by what I eat or drink. I want to have a correct understanding of how the body works, so that I can give him in the right time to eat, and the right time to sleep, and the right time to do whatever. But we must know that on the body level, there are tolerances. You can go for 3 nights not to sleep, and you still can be okay. Because there is a tolerance there. But we will see in the spiritual things, there are no tolerances. An evil thought, a fearful thought, can change your body in split of a second. There's no tolerance. It's either or. So the body can be, yes, you can use him, to say so, and put him under physiological burdens, yes, and there is a wide spread. You can go for 20 days not to eat, and you still are okay. Are you? Yes? Somehow, I didn't try it, but my oldest son tried it, and I observed him because he was living there at my practice, and I think 21 days he fasted. Now, it's an interesting thing. After 1 or 2 days, your hunger disappears. You know that? But what becomes stronger every day? You don't eat.
Your mind.
No, that's the appetite. You smell food from a long distance. And you know what he did all these 21 days? He just was thinking what to cook. Yes, because he had to drink some liquids, and he makes some soup just for the liquids, he put a lot of things to have minerals and all this, but he didn't eat, but he drank this mineral thing out of that, and his mind was occupied with the appetite. So the more you don't eat, yes, the hunger disappears, but the appetite grows very much, so that you're very susceptible to anything you smell. It's from a distance, while before you didn't realize that you didn't even smell it. So let's come to my first case in my practice, to see how the things work. How I discovered, or how God helped me to understand what makes the body sick and how that process works. So we now know and have this overview of the human structure. We know we have a spirit and a body, and we know that the disease must start from the cortex physically, but it must start in the spirit. So, here is this lady, she's in her 30s, beginning of 30 years old, and she has severe headaches for 2 weeks. Her primary doctor gave her medication, but nothing worked. The headaches didn't go away, and so he sent her to me as an ENT to look into her nose to see the sinuses. But I looked into the nose, the sinuses were all fine, there was sunshine there. There was nothing that was there that should be not right. And so I said, oh, this poor lady, I looked to her, she was really in pain, and I said, let's see, maybe she has a brain tumor or something going on in her head. So I sent her emergency to go to make a CT scan of her head. She came back the same day, and all her pictures were clear. Now what can I say to her? Dear lady, go home. The pictures show that your fear, your pain is just an imagination. You don't have nothing, you just think you have pain. Because the pictures don't show the pain. Can I do that? No. But now, let me ask you a tricky question. And don't answer too fast. Is pain objective or subjective? Now, who is for subjective? Okay. Who is for objective? Oh, one. Yes. So, who's right? If the pain would be subjective, then I could tell her, go home, it's just an imagination. You see how you fall into the trap? Pain and everything you hear, you feel, you see is objective. Because it comes from the piano. It comes from your body. Even hallucinations are physical things. That is, they come from the body and they are objective. They are not subjective. So we know that pain comes from the limbic system. That is, there is an input there from the thought or from the body when you hurt your finger with a hammer. Then there is released here chemistry that goes up to the cortex and tells the spirit, there is pain in the finger. But do you feel pain in the finger or just feel the finger in the cortex? You only feel the pain in the cortex. But because the finger is connected to the cortex. Now what does pain tell you? To hit again with the hammer the finger or to stop doing that? Evidently, pain is something that says us, don't do it again. Now, she has headaches. And now we have to rule out what can do her body headaches. We know by the law, the headache cannot come from the body. Yes? You know that now from yesterday, but we have to exercise it. So I have to see what happened to her body. Who hurt the body that it brings out the pain? So I start with inheritance. Can you have inherited pain? Now, you don't need to be a scientist. You don't need to read books. You know that pain is never inherited. There can no be disease inherited that brings you pain. Because pain is an actual situation that warns you that something is not right. Yes, it's an acute thing, it's a present thing. Pain, you must acknowledge that it is something that is now and acute there, and it can never be inherited. Second thing, her head could be damaged by some accidents. So we have to rule out that she fell down, that she hit her head, or whatever. She didn't have no accident. She had nothing that hit her head. So we could rule out the accident. We ruled out the chemistry. She ate and drank the same thing she ate and drank before. There was no change in the diet. So now we are there, and every doctor would say, we don't know. Because there's nothing that hit you, there is nothing that chemistry did, so that you have headaches. Now what can we do? Yes, of course we can give medication, but for me, I want to know the cause. And so there is the fourth thing that I can ask her, what does she think? Because thoughts are like hammers. They are power. And they can damage the body more worse than a hammer. So I asked her what happened 14 days ago. That is, before she had the headaches. There must have been an event that made the headaches. And so this first case is a simple case. And she told me just immediately, she said, for 2 weeks ago, before she had the headaches, she heard that her boyfriend betrayed her. That's a stress point, isn't it?
Yeah.
At least for ladies. So there's a stress point. She hears her boyfriend betrayed her. Now she moved into that boyfriend 1 year ago. She came down from North Germany. She said, I left my family back in North Germany. I came down here to live with this gentleman, and now only after 1 year he betrays me. So she was upset. She was working in a business, and of course when you're hurt, what do you do when you have friends in your business? You talk about it, yes? You think when you talk about it, you make it better. But it's the worst. So she says to her girlfriends there, or to her co-workers, she sets her pain and says, he betrayed me, imagine! And what do the friends say to her? Oh, the poor guy, love him more. Isn't that what they say? No, they say, oh, you have to revenge, show it to him. Okay? And that makes more headache or less headache? More headache. Now you're on the track. Now, let us just look to her thoughts before she heard what he did and after she heard what he did. So before she knew that he cheated on her, how was she thinking about him? She was thinking loving thoughts. Can loving thoughts ever hurt your brain? I tell you, loving thoughts are just what the brain needs. They are, to go even deeper in its free thoughts. All thoughts that you like to think, that you think because you want to think them, can never damage anything in your body. Because that decision that you take out of free thoughts is just very nice. It's suited to make the body the right electricity, to make the right chemistry then, and the whole chain of reactions is just perfect. So loving thoughts are the best thoughts. But now she hears the news. And the question is, what does change when she hears the news that he cheated on her? What is changing? Is he changing or she's changed? He was ever the same thing. She just didn't know. Now she knows it. She knows that he has been unfaithful to me. And what does she think now about him? What is her reaction? Well, she's disappointed, she's hurt, and everyone who is disappointed and hurt must have revenge thoughts. They immediately come because we have a need for righteousness, and we think revenge brings us back to righteousness because we think punishment brings righteousness. Can punishment ever bring righteousness? I hope not. But the most religious people think through punishment you become righteous. But that's another thing, maybe for later on. So, punishment won't change anything, would it? But now she's hurt. Tell me, is she thinking these thoughts because she wants to or she has to? Does she has a choice not to think them, or does she has no choice to think them? Now, I didn't hear anyone saying no choice. Is anyone here with no choice? That's very good. So you are on track. When you get angry, do you choose to get angry? Anyone here? No, you cannot choose to get angry. It's someone comes against you, someone does something that doesn't fit your need, yes? And you immediately react without a choice. Disease is a proof that you have no choice. But we all are confused. I tell you another story, and let's see if you would have a choice. Imagine you're married to a man for 35 years, and after 35 years, you hear that your husband has betrayed you all these years. You just did not know anything about it. What would happen with you? You're now 70 years old or over 70. You have lived, yes, a life with this gentleman, and now you hear by accident. This is a real case. The lady comes to me in 2013, and she hears about, in 2010, she discovers through some incidents that her husband had other women, or even almost married them and lived with them in different countries where he went to have business, and she just found it out after 35 years. From 1975 since 2010, he betrayed her. She finds it out, and now she comes 2013 into my practice. Is she happy or sad? Can she sleep or can she not sleep? She says, I drive my car, and I go and look to heaven, and I say, how can I get back my peace? Why is she in prison? Is she choosing to think like that? Yes or no? No. But imagine, I have had an interesting case, and this case will always irritate you. I promise you before I say it to you. Because this is a Christian case. I mean, this is a lady that was married to her husband for 40 years. And they were in a church, and in that church, they were marriage counselor for 40 years. Until one day, 4 years ago, or maybe a little bit before 4 years ago, in that church comes a young lady. She's 38 years younger than her husband. So her husband 70 and the lady is 32. And she sits beneath her husband in the church. And something magical happens. The young lady gets in love with the old man, and the old man gets in love with the young lady. And now the 40 years of marriage counselor are gone, and he went off, he divorces his wife, and marries the young girl. Do they get sick? No, they are happy, they love, so no sickness. Their bones have no problem. Their sugar is balanced. Everything is fine. Who is going to be my patient? The ex-wife. With a choice or no choice? She comes to my practice 4 years later, and she tells me her story. And she's very upset. She says, this is my husband. I said, where do you know that? She brings out the scripture, says, it's in the Bible. I say, well, he divorced you, he has another woman, so forget it, it's all legal. He is not your husband anymore. But she thinks he's still her. And now the funny thing is, and God is nice sometimes to put pictures very nice together. The funny thing is, when you are married in Germany for 40 years, when you divorce, they must be a partial of the things you have, yes? And also the pension, yes, the retirement payment. And now guess who has, they are half, made half, yes? Everyone gives the half of his pension to his partner. And who gets the gain? Who wins? The one who has a higher pension or a lower one? The lower one gets. And her husband didn't earn so much money than she earned, so now she has to pay from her pension to him. And she says it with her own words. She says, I now finance their happiness. Does she rejoice in it? Would you rejoice?
No.
Why not? A Christian should rejoice when he can support someone in his happiness. Maybe I'm not in a Christian church, but whatever. When she came to me, I put that question to me. I said, how many years do you need to go in a church to love a person that does the wrong thing? How many years do you need to sit in a church to just say, hey, I know that gentleman. When you're 40 years married and have been marriage counselor, do you know how a man thinketh or do you don't know? You know it or not? You should know. You should know that the old man is still the young one. He still looks to the younger woman than to the old ones. Does he? Are men here somehow? So, when that occasion comes, and your old age, she's 38 years younger, would you take it? I don't expect any answers. I don't expect any answers because I know how men think. And a woman should know that. So when he gets this occasion, how should she react? Hey, well for you. I'm happy you got it. No? Sounds strange, does it? But we should know what other people think. And we should know how I could say defective those thinking is, to go by your instinct, by your sexual instinct, yes? And so, she is 40 years in a church, and she should be able to love that poor guy and the poor girl, should she? And say, I have compassion with you. And I wish you all the happiness you have in this world. Because it's a happiness that goes away. Why can she not do it? Because she chooses? There is no choice. Because there is something in us that takes us in prison when others do wrong. Is that fair? It's always when others do wrong, you get sick. And that's something that was very strange when I saw it in my practice. I found out that people are sick because they take themselves as prisoners because others did wrong. They did not have compassion with the sinner. They only had compassion with themselves. That's why sickness is an evidence of selfishness. It looks like love, does it? Are you still with me? But I know you will think about this case because we must understand that something in us is deeply wrong. So she takes herself as prisoner and her body says, stop it. Stop to think like that about your husband or your boyfriend. This lady's, the first case, it's a boyfriend. I asked her, what would you do with him? And she said, well, I wouldn't leave him, but I would like him to be faithful. Is that something wrong that she would like to be faithful? Is it wrong? No. The question is just for whom to be faithful? Can she make him faithful? And that makes her sick. Because she's in a dependency. She would like to make him faithful. Yes? But she is unable to make him faithful, so she is totally, in her spirit, turmoil and confused. And she beats the walls. understanding she has no control over him. Would you like her to have control over him? Would you like her or not? Thank God she has no control over him. I always say, thank God that no one can control the other one, because the spirit is not controllable except by the one that uses it. You can never control a spirit. It's a dependent thing, but it is only acting by itself. That's why you get sick when you want your husband to be faithful to you. But the question is, why does you want it? Have you ever asked that yourself? I asked that to myself. I said, what is it? And I came to understand that there is an error in the human spirit. That error makes us to process the negative information, even the positive one. But the positive doesn't make us sick. But it makes us to process the negative information against ourselves. And we process it with an error. Would this lady, would every one of us see the things like they really are? It would not matter if your husband after 40 years goes with a 32 years one, you would still be happy and healthy and think lovingly towards him. If you just would see the things as they really are. But there is an error in us that we don't see as an error, and it just destroys our lives. It's always the victim that is sick. And the pain comes to warn whom? The boyfriend or her? To stop it. Who needs to stop thinking the same way? She does. So what can I do as a doctor? Shall I take the boyfriend, say, bring the boyfriend to me, I speak with him, he will be faithful from now on, and your headaches will go away? Would that work? But some people would like me to do that, because they tell their husband to me and says, you have to tell him what he has to do. I say, I'm only there to tell you what to do, never your husband. That's why some people don't like me, because they want me to fix the other one. I can only help the one that is in need, not the one that has no need. Those two that are in love, they won't come to the doctor. Why should they? It's all fine with them. They're happy. Their thoughts are free. They love. There's nothing that damages their body. So what is the error that is there in us that destroys us? What is it? What is that? What brings us into a situation where not others do us wrong, but we do ourselves the wrong thing. And we take ourselves as prisoners without a choice. And it's the error. But this error is not seen as an error. I only could see it because it destroyed the body. So let's see what's the error, so that you have to work something tonight at home to get rid, at least to see the error before you can get rid of it. So I always measure with that which I can measure with the body. Can the body ever lie? Can the piano ever lie within tone? No. The input that comes, that he will put out. That's why the body is an absolute measurement. He can only give further what you put in. He can only express that which is done unto him. Never that what he can do from himself, because he can do nothing from himself without having the input of the Spirit. So the body has two needs. You know the two needs? He needs chemistry and he needs electrical current. Yes? Electricity governs the processes and the chemistry is used to do the processes. So, we need to put them in. They come from outside. The body cannot produce them for himself. So we put in the food through the stomach so that we have the right chemistry. Who makes the electrical current? The Spirit makes the electrical current to the brain, because the brain pertains to the body. Yes, it's one thing. And what does the Spirit eat? Apples and pears. No, he eats love and loyalty and truth and security and liberty. That's the food of the Spirit. That's his need. So, now, let's see. There are 3 questions that we must answer correctly, and then we are fine. We are out of all problems. It's who is responsible to fill up the need, who, for, or how, and then how, and from where. So, who's responsible for your stomach to be filled? You, me, 100%. Have you ever asked your spouse to eat for you? Have you? No, because she would say, it does not work. What she eats goes into her stomach, not into mine. So I didn't find people to say, oh, take a deep breath for me because I have no air anymore. It's not possible. Because physical things are evident, you see them. So how do you fill up your stomach or your body? How do you do it? By what? You have to eat. What is eating? Giving or taking? No, I know this is a big confusion. When you eat, you give to the body something, or you take something away from him. You give him something. So, can you give him something before you take something?
No.
So, you must first have something on your table. Let's sit at the table and eat first, and then you put something on the table. Is that possible? No. So, we must first take in order to give. You remember that is the law of life. That's the general law of everything. You must take in order to give. You cannot keep that. What you take, you must give it. If you keep the apple and you don't eat it, how much help is it? None. So, we must take in order to give. From where do we take the apple? From nature. Yes? We are dependent on nature to take our food from there and put it into our stomach, and then it goes its way, taking to give, taking to give. So, now the question is, who is responsible that your spirit has enough love? You or not you? Or how much you? I heard not you. So, who fills up your need for love? Don't tell it too early. Did someone say God? Yes, I know that answer. But that answer is false. Because if I have not enough love, who is responsible for it? No, God is responsible. So God is the only one that is then responsible that we're sick. But what He is not. Because He made us to eat, to take from nature, so He also made us on spiritual level to be self-governed. We have learned that the Spirit can never be put something into it. He must only can take it in order to give it. So, who is responsible that your spirit has enough love?
We are.
Everyone himself. Me, 100%. And sometimes I ask my patients, because here they are confused. They say 50-50 or, yeah, something me and something another one. And then I say, yes, how would it be better? And then we would all say, oh, better would it be if I would be like with food. Yes, I am governing it. Yes, if the food is not there, I cannot eat anything. But if the food is there, I can just pick and choose and do the job. Now, love must be the same. It's me 100%. How do I do it? We learned out of the example, what do we need to think to have good electricity? Loving thought. Thank you. You're with me. I'm happy. So, you think loving thoughts. Towards whom? There is never yourself. We will see that you can never take and give something for yourself. So on whom do you need to think lovingly? On your husband who betrayed you. On the one that went off with the younger friend. On the one that just stole your car. Do you like it? It's fantastic, isn't it? Total liberty. You think loving thoughts toward the people that do wrong. And how much problem do you have in your brain? How much wrong electricity do you have? Zero. Because you think loving thoughts. Say, oh, the poor guy, he needs 2 women instead of 1. Let him have it. Can we think like that? No, I tell you, the error is deep in us. We're just prisoners of this error. That's why I want to bring the truth beautiful to you. So we have to give loving thoughts. When we give loving thoughts in our body, everything is fine. So do we need to take them from where before? Do we need to take love from where before? Yes or no? Yes, you have to take in order to give. But we will see the error of our spirit is that we think love is something that we generate. But we will see that that is a big error. But the question is then from where? And it would be very simple, from God. There is only one source of love where you can take from, and that is God. So, if we take from God and give love to the one that are not worthy for love, how much problems would we have? Zero problems. Now, where does the problem arise? This is the plain truth. That's what the law always says and how we were made to do it. But now we have in us an error. But this error we don't see as an error. And now I ask you the question about the error. Let's see how you answer. Do you need to be loved? I know that everyone thinketh he needs to be loved. Is that an error or is that the truth? You see, friends, how can we now decide if it is an error or if it's the truth? By what? We need the law. Yes? So, tell me, when you need to be loved, that is to receive love from someone else, whose action is that? Yours or the actions of others? So it's the action of others. How can the actions of others impact your brain? Can they? Let me put you another question. It's the same question than before. Can anyone think for you? You see how decided we say no, that no one can think for us. But to be loved is exactly to want that someone should think for you. It's exactly the same thing. And so confused are we. We are very confused. Because we have never checked that by the law, the actions of others are impossible to feed us. On physical level, we never get into temptation because we can see it. No one asks the other one to drink or to eat or to sleep for him because it is not possible. But on spiritual level, we are just beggars all the time. Please love me a little bit because then it's fine with me. Are we or not? I tell you, we are in a terrible situation. And we don't see it wrong. We don't see that to be loved is an impossibility by the law because there is never in the law an action that another can do for your individual. Individuality is set by that only the individual can satisfy its needs. You cannot satisfy the need of the plant, you can just give it close to it, and the plant needs to take it in order to give it further. Everything is governed on this earth and in this universe by this simple law, in which the action is always in the individual. There is never an action that another individual can do for the other one. It's just not possible. The law does not permit that you have an advantage if you are going to be loved. Because where does it enter? But we all think to be loved is what? Our need. And so we go into relationships. Why do we go into relationships? What's the purpose of our relationships? The reason. We have a spouse, a father, a mother. Do we go into them because we love them to give? Or we go because we want to be loved to receive? There is never a possibility of both. You can never go backwards and forwards at the same time. It's either or. You either go into relationship to love, or you either go into relationship to receive. Why are you in a relationship? You know why? To receive. And when you don't receive, what do? You get upset. And then you go into protests. And who gets sick? You. You get a headache, but you don't know why. Your back pain is there, but you don't know why. And you're still in your mind punishing the other one or judging the other one because it didn't do you right. Is anyone responsible to do you any right? There is the error in us, leads us to the idea that I am dependent for love from the acts and existence of others. Those are the two things that bring us into problems. The acts of others that do not meet our needs, or if they do the right thing but they die away, we kill ourselves. There's only these two bottom elements, the acts of others or the existence of others. So you either have a husband who leaves you, or you have a good husband that dies away. I had a gentleman, his wife died away 10 years ago. And he got a cripple, his bones, in this 10 years, he got very sick. He dreams his wife every night. He sleeps with a big picture. I said, I have a big picture in my bed. She sleeps there with me as a picture. And I dream her every night. And every night, or every morning when I wake up, I'm upset that she's not there. She's not the only one. I had another patient that has the same thing. I think it was 6 years later, after her husband died, she was dreaming him every night. She had the first cancer. And then I had a lady that for 5 years her husband died and she didn't change anything in the house. She says the toothbrush is still there where it was. Because there is a dependency for love from others. You see what I found out in my first years in my practice? Sickness comes because you believe someone doesn't love you. And if that, what you believe, makes you sick, your faith must be wrong. Because if you put in that piano a tone that destroys the piano, that input must be wrong. And I tell you a story to end up this night. It was on our 30th anniversary 5 years ago, 29 May. And I was driving to my practice, and I was thinking, because I have 60 kilometers to go to my practice from home, I was praying to God and said, Lord, what shall I buy to my wife for our anniversary? Do men need something for the anniversary? No, of course not. But woman needs something. And so I prayed to God, what should I bring to my wife to an anniversary? And so I remembered that my wife likes roses, and I said, oh, roses, 30 roses, €4 a rose makes 120 euros. That's quite expensive. So I did my calculations on the way, and you see, if you're a doctor like me who just lives on missionary expenses, and he doesn't live from the rich things that he has from his practice, because I'm more doing mission or ministry than working with my patient. And so you have to be calculated. And men were made to just be, not throw away the money on anniversaries. However, I was thinking about that, and I didn't come to an end to take a decision, and there is my first case in my practice that morning. She's a 24-year-old lady. I didn't know her before, but she has a friend that brought her to me in my practice because she could not eat now for 3 days. She couldn't swallow. So I looked into her throat. Anything was fine. She could swallow, but she could not eat anymore. Now you know why. Why can she not eat? Because she's not loved. Yes, that stops everything in you. Yeah, the idea to not be loved makes you to react if you think you need to be loved. And so she tells me the story. She's married for 2 years, and she tells me how her husband is. And she tells me how he reacts and how he keeps the money. And she says, just to imagine, I give you a picture from our honeymoon. First, he didn't want to go to honeymoon because men don't need honeymoons. Yes, just women need that. And so he just, want to be very clear and do business like usual. And so finally he agreed to go in honeymoon for 7 days. So he took 3 nights in the hotel at the beach and 4 nights in the hotel in the city. Because at the beach, it's more expensive than the city. So he said 3 here, 4 here, so he's calculating. And then because it's honeymoon, he took only 2 meals a day. So you shouldn't get 2. Yes? So he took only 2 meals in the package. He didn't take 3. So the lady said, oh, he might take me out in the evening. So she dressed her nicely and said, oh, let's go eat. And then like a brute boyfriend says, or this was her husband said, well, yes, just go to the grocery store and buy something. Yes, if you're hungry, just go to the grocery store. Don't go out eating. You have no money. Would you like him? Does this gentleman have your sympathies? Yes or no? Now I tell you, while she was telling me the story, whom did I see? I saw myself. You see, doctors have a great privilege. They can see themselves when the patients tell the story. And I saw myself, and I hated me. I saw exactly my picture. And you see, there is a Bible promise there that says, before you call, I will answer. And he knew that I would call to him what to do on my anniversary, and he prepared 3 days before the answer. And my patient just came that first morning, and when I saw myself, I said, in myself, you see, the people can think, thoughts are free, they're not visible, thank God. And so I was seeing myself, and I was hating me, and I said, Lord, whatever the roses cost, I buy them. Doesn't matter. Because I hated to be, like that. And so, just a minute or 2 later, I cannot see, but it was very, very short time. I didn't finish with the patient. My phone rings. And I have an arrangement with my wife that whenever she calls me, I answer the phone, no matter what happens, no matter where I am, because she only calls me when there is an emergency. But the emergencies for women and for men are a little bit different. So I have to answer emergencies that I don't see as emergencies, but it's fine. I made that commitment. So whenever she calls, I answer. Just even in meetings, sometimes she calls me, and then I push the button down, but then she persists because, that's emergency. So at the end, I have to answer. I said, I'm in a meeting now. Oh, yes, okay. The emergency is gone. So I pick up the phone and I say, what is it? And she says, oh, honey, I found a rose bush for our anniversary. Can I buy it? That was the emergency, which was, of course. And it came just at the right moment after I took the decision. Yes? And of course, I just said that question that you always has to say, how much does it cost? And then she says, 38 euros. Oh, I said in my mind, you can buy two, but I didn't say it loud. So she bought one. So I got away with 38 euros that anniversary. Didn't buy 120 euros, or because the Lord knows how to do economy, and He also He knows how to learn to teach me to not be
cheap.
Not doing the right thing. But what do I do now with this young girl? And when I finished the phone call, I said, now I have to help the girl to eat again. And so I said to her, because I know the deception of the heart, I said to her, your husband loves you. Because what would you expect? He just loves money a little bit more than her, but that doesn't matter. He loves her. So I said, your husband loves you. And you see, I'm today 30 years married. And so I could give her my testimony. I said, I'm still learning to love. It's a hard thing to learn. And your husband has only 2 years experience. So give him a chance. And while you give him a chance, help him. Because men need help.
Amen.
They are not able to go by themselves. So help him. And you know how to help him? You never complain anything to him what's on your heart. You always tell him the good things. Because man doesn't want to solve the problems of the woman. They just want to be made happy by the woman. Yes? So always when you see him, you just smile. You just smile. Because you see him, it's a reason to smile. And you're always dressed nicely. You never have something on your face that makes you sad, because men can nothing do with sad women. They're totally lost when they see a sad woman before them. So I told her some secrets of men to her. And so I said, help him. Be just a nice girl to him. Smile to him, and you will see he will change. He might change. But if not, you still can eat. Because if she loves, every nerve system works again. And I met her 3 months later, and she said it worked. So she says it's better now. Because, you see, there is something in us, that big error in us, just keeps us from being loving people. It keeps us away from being nice with those who do wrong. But we must be nice to those who is wrong, because the law does not take any excuse to say, oh, he did wrong, he doesn't deserve love. No. If he did right or wrong, he still deserves love. And you can still think good on him and love him. But then your error must be out of them. But as long as you live in the error, no matter what happened, if the other did you wrong, you will fall apart and you will destroy yourself. So tomorrow we will go into subconscious to see where is the error located. What makes us all to think that others need to love us. It's in all books. It is written, you need to be loved. Read to all psychology books. But there is one book that never says it. You know which that book is? The Bible only says, you need to love. There is no one in a duty to love you. The only duty you have. And if you do, breathe. If you do, take love and give. Who can do you damage? No one. No matter what the roses costs. It's always fine. So, I hope you will have a good evening. There is a music, and if you still have questions and time, we can answer questions after the music.